We are live! Hooray, hooray!
Hello and wonderful.
Intros
Hello.
all around, starting with Jim.
All right. Hello, I'm Jim.
I'm Ray.
Craig. Oh, and Ray. Sorry.
Craig, Ray, I'm Kato. Hello, welcome. We are just some of the team behind Tabula Sono. We would like to welcome our special guest, Craig Shipman. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very excited to chat and dig into some cool Tabula Sono stuff together. Let's take it over to Jim.
Cool. Before we get started, we have a couple housekeeping things that I want to go through. So we have our birthday coming up in August. So we've got Summer with Sono in full swing right now. So next week, we're going to Gen Con. We've got an episode of Sarah's Table on Gen Con TV that's dropping on Friday in a couple of days. So be on the watch out for that and a whole bunch of other stuff. So make sure you follow us, like us, subscribe, hit the bell icon, do all the, you get it. So basically, let's see. So we launched almost a year ago. So our birthday's coming up and it's been a super crazy year. We fulfilled the entire Kickstarter that included a whole bunch of physical rewards as well as the digital ones. We built out our free 3D library to what I would consider peak awesomeness. And I think we recently hit 1,000 free minis. Rachel, is that right? Or did I just make that up?
That is right. 1,001 minis to be exact.
Nice. Over 1,000.
1,000 plus.
Perfect. Okay, so lots of free minis. And through our 3 major updates, which, by the way, we just released update 3 today, we've got tons of new awesome features that everyone has been super creative with. And speaking of that, Kato's been putting together a whole bunch of amazing screams and play groups. So Kato, thank you for that.
Yeah. We've been really impressed with everybody's creativity. Craig Shipman was on one of our episodes when we got to play Hedge with the fabulous Drakes. Hi to the Drakes. I think you are watching. So it's just been a really fun way to showcase the platform and this opportunity to play with some really cool gamers in the community.
Yep. Much crazy, many fun. But after all that, I'm actually pretty excited to take a quick break, relax with my Frankenstein beverage, chat, answer some questions, and just have a good time. So, Kato, take it away. Let's get going.
Awesome. Hello to anybody in the chat. Is anyone listening? We just wanted to say hi to our
is this thing on?
Wonderful.
Can you hear me now?
Can you turn me down, please? I'm getting too much of me right now. But I see there are some people watching in Twitch right now. Hey, Felix. Yay, you're the best. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us tonight. Big thank you to Craig. I know I've said it a couple times already in the first 3 minutes of this stream. But before we get going into digging into all these questions, can you introduce yourself? Tell us how you got mixed up in this crazy, wonderful world, what you like to do, any upcoming projects or things that you work on.
Sure. I appreciate you guys having me. I was super excited when I got the invite. Asking creators questions is what I do. So if you go to any podcatcher and look at Up Tabletop Talk from Third Floor Wars, you'll find my interview podcast. It's a long form interview where I talk to creatives about how they are creative in the tabletop world. We've interviewed people from all different aspects. Reiner Knizia from the board games, tons of people from different RPGs. And then if you like actual plays and GM advice, you can go to the Third Floor Wars Twitch or YouTube channel and see a bunch of stuff there.
Sweet.
Most excellent.
All right. You guys want to get started with the questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Rachel, hit me.
Ray, I think you start it.
Yes. So we want to start with a fun one. So, Jim, what is the craziest most ridiculous moment that you have witnessed within Tabula Sono?
Can I pick two? I don't know what the rules are for this, but I had two that like sprung to my mind, and I was like, can I pick one? So can I do two?
Do it, Jim.
All right. If there are any rules, I am breaking them right now. I think the absolute most craziest one, maybe the most ambitious and crazy, was we have one of our creators who he does a lot of live streams and a lot of plays, professional game master, and he actually recreated a scene from one of the older rides in Universal Studios. It's like there's like an earthquake when you're inside of a subway or something like that. But so he had the subway car completely recreated in Sono with everybody inside of it, the things like wiggling around and jostling back and forth. And that was actually really cool to see, because it was something that I had never even imagined could be done in my own platform. So I was super impressed with that. I think that's probably the most ambitious and crazy thing. But ridiculous. I was actually a player in a game, which is really cool. I hardly ever get to play. I'm a forever DM, but I was a player in a game. It's just a normal this and that. We took a quick break for a one shot out of our like year-long campaign, and we encountered a portal to hell. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go. We jump in. Everything's cool. Whatever. At the end of the 3-hour session, the game master is like, so RE, the portal to hell, you guys should zoom out. So we're in Sono and we just start mouse scroll wheeling way back. Turns out the portal to hell was just a giant toilet.
Oh, jeez.
And it was there the whole time. So we
Oh my gosh.
that was a pretty good reveal. And
that is a great reveal.
Yeah, Game Master did a great job of that slow kind of reveal. Another rule. Am I allowed to ask questions?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're just asking you more questions than you're asking us.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, then I want to ask the same question. Sorry if this is lame, but I want to ask the same question of Ray. Maybe even everybody. But Ray, why don't you start? Same question to you. Most ridiculous or crazy thing that you've seen happen in Sono?
Yeah, definitely what's first in my mind on ridiculous, crazy, fun moments. The office chair jousting when we did a one shot with a few people. It was a while ago now. But Jim basically took their 5e characters and dropped them into a modern office building setting and told them to just go. So there was a ton of crazy moments that came out of that one, but the office chair jousting was amazing.
Didn't they keep getting into fights with electrical sockets? Because they didn't know what they were.
One of them kept sticking his fingers in the electrical sockets and getting zapped. Yep.
And the porcelain water fountains that they couldn't quite figure out where the water went sideways.
We got a theme going here, Jim.
Yeah. What can I say?
Whereas some D&D groups can't handle doors, others are boarded by porcelain.
Indeed. Literal potty humor, I guess, is my thing. So
literal. Okay. Kato, what about you?
I think that some of my favorite moments, there's so many since I started working here, but I really enjoyed in the lighthearted game with Queen's Court Games, which is like this 80s neon coming of age story, but with magic and vampires and stuff. My most favorite moment was I had personally, I'm going to flip my own hair on this, but I had created the villain as an 80s vampire, which you can immediately understand where the source material was. But having everybody step into the green room at the concert venue and realize that was where the vampire den was, and they saw it and they went, oh no, this is that movie. this is that movie that we can't say on the air because of legal reasons, but this is that movie. And they all like grabbed various weapons off the wall, like a kayak paddle. One of the players took off a head of one of the vampires with a kayak paddle, which was really cool to see. So that was a very fun moment for me personally.
I like a good reveal.
Yes, we love a good reveal. Also, I just built out with Ray the what's your astrological sign DM style, and getting to play with the world that way was very fun. Where like I got the opportunity to put a map on the ceiling and flip all the minis upside down.
That's cool.
And try and break my own brain in terms of how they would move about the space, because you can't move them normally, which was actually a really fun challenge. So
and the labyrinth that you made for that, I think honestly, I think we need to crawl through that soon, just to fill it with stuff and do that, because
it's there. Really we should use it. Yeah. I'm gonna ask, I know Craig's only played the one game with us, but what are the most ridiculous things that you've seen in Sono in that game you played?
There's a couple things, right? Because so that hedge game that I played with you guys was my first time using Sono, and I'm gonna sound like such a shill, but I don't care. One, incredibly easy, right? Like you guys didn't have to send me a tutorial or anything. It was very quick, live as we were playing. I'm learning how to use it, which is really nice. As someone who's tried several VTTs, it's just really nice to be able to say, look, players, just here's a link and go. So, but I think that what was really neat to see is Sean Drake was running the game, and I think it took him 45 seconds to set up the entire boss battle. And that was pretty impressive. Anybody who has used, other VTTs knows you can spend hours, right, putting together a boss battle, and just on the fly watching Sean do that. And no offense, Sean, you're not known as a huge tech wizard, right? And this was one of your earliest times using Sono. So the fact that you were able to do that, I think, is very telling.
Yeah, we enjoy the user friendliness of it all.
Shots fired at Sean. We'll do I think we can do like a grand melee battle at the flagpole after class.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sean's tongue will be stuck to it, but I know what you meant.
Yeah, that's fine. He can just use his, yeah. It's a great movie, by the way.
It is a great movie. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to ease in and start interrogating Jim. Are we good with that?
Do it.
Probably.
All right. So Jim, when you go to a museum, and let's say we go to a museum and there's a thing about, let's say, gravity, right? And it's going to be a series of exhibits. And the first exhibit is going to be Sir Isaac Newton sitting under the tree and the apple falls on top of his head. Well, as it turns out, I'm taking my daughter to the Tabula Sono museum next week. And what is the first exhibit that I'm going to show my daughter when I get to that museum? So where was the very beginnings of this VTT, the first acorn? Yeah.
So back in the day, the year was 2018 or 19 or something.
The pre-times.
But
Jim,
we have
while you're talking, will you try to pull up some of those?
Yeah, no, I can do that. So Rachel knows exactly where I'm going with this. But my wife and I were we were into D&D. We had whatever. We were like newly moved into this big house with an extra room, and we were like, spare what should we do with that? And we decided that we were going to build a gaming table and a D&D table, basically, and make that like our D&D room. So we spent a little bit of time doing that and getting everything set up. And it's a fairly big table. We still have it. And it's probably 8 feet by like 5 feet.
Oh, wow.
So very large. Took up pretty much the whole room. And then we started playing games on it, right? So invite people over, and of course it has cup holders in it, no doy, and USB chargers everywhere for everybody. But so it was a lot of fun. And then at one point in time during one of the games, somebody was like, hey, aren't you a software developer? Shouldn't you just like build something to run games on this table? And then I was like, yeah, okay. So we started playing around with, so then we cut a hole in the middle of the table, stuck a TV in it, and then built a couple iterations of software platforms here and there. I have pictures. Let me share that. Where is the button? Boom. This was the
Oh, look at that.
First-
How cool is that?
first iteration of the table that we built out. And then let me find the actual
Now, did you have a woodworking background or anything? Or did you just like,
Nah.
screw it, I'm going to make a table?
that one. This was our first foray into anything like construction or carpentry or
Oh, look
whatever.
at you.
So we just
Very cool.
learned as we went, built the thing out, put all the stuff in there. Majestic Goose says they made their own. Well, I'll come by later on, Adam, if that's you, and we can put USB chargers in it. So we played around with that for a while, and then we put the hole in it and did all of the things. Here's the interim of the hole. So we got the hole in there. We put the TV in there, and then actually built a whole platform and a whole software platform just for that one single table, so that we could play our games and enjoy everybody's company. So there's actually have everything running on here. So this was kind of the DM's places and going in there. These shots are before we had the cup holders in. So thanks for pointing that out.
So,
Got a big
Jim,
old hole saw.
it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to build this table, but I'm a software guy. So I'm going to go ahead and build a platform, which I love how you just threw it out there, just like like you took a table saw and made an entire software platform. But at some point, though, it became something that was going to go beyond just the table. And I'd like to get an idea of when that idea hit.
So right before the pandemic, so like early February 2020, we were working on plans to take this to a whole bunch of game stores in the region and start there, and then work our way out, and actually build this platform specifically for tables. And that's actually where the name Tabula Sono came from. It's kind of a fake Latin play on words. Tabula generally meaning table or slate, and sono meaning play, or even to hear or to do. So that was the original intent. And then as soon as we started getting that off the ground and started getting leads out and started all the business part of that, the pandemic hit and all the game stores shut down. Everything in person just completely, like, indefinitely postponed. So that was kind of a hit, and that was pretty hard to go through, because we're like, we can still do this, right? But then we started looking into us personally. We started looking into, okay, well, let's move games online, because if we can't meet together, we still want to play. We got these awesome campaigns going. So we went through and we tried literally every single VTT that was available at that point in time. And every time we would try one, that like nostalgia of this is new and this is shiny and this is fancy, we would get into it. Everything would be great. And then 2 or 3 games in, you're like, this is actually now completely different than what we were playing when we were in that room in my house, because we're working around the tools.
Interesting.
So we're as a GM, I'm coming in and I'm like, I got to prep for the campaign. So I need to build this map, set this thing up, build these walls, set this thing up, go through there. And then invariably and always the players are going to be like, oh, I know that the guy over there has a quest for us to the right, because he's got that little exclamation point bouncing above his head. But why don't we go left? And generally in my games previous and pre-pandemic, the answer would be, heck yeah, go left. Let's see where this goes. It's my firm opinion that games like Dungeons and Dragons and any other tabletop RPG, the whole premise there is player agency, and that the story is not created by the game master, who is God. The story is created by literally everyone sitting around the table.
Yep.
So if we can't let them create the story and push things forward, then it's just not the same. So after like 3 or 4 games, we would realize like that it just doesn't have that spark. Like we don't feel like we're storytellers. We feel like there's one person kind of narrating the movie that we are acting out. So
Jim, you've got a problem, right? So you've got a platform, you've got a problem. The problem is that I'm not recreating what I was doing at home. And I want to be able to do that. And it sounds like early on you realized that as good as all these other VTTs are, they just aren't allowing you the flexibility that you need. What's next then? Do you then go back to your the one that you had spun up?
We started over. So we learned a lot of things from the display and what's worth maintaining and what's not worth maintaining. And by that I mean some people are going to be using a tool like D&D Beyond to maintain their character sheets. Some people are going to be pen and paper. Some people are going to have their own mobile app. Some people are going to have their own method. And I don't ever want to get in the way of that. So it's your game and it's how you play it. So rather than being this like all-encompassing solution that keeps track of everything for you, wanted to get the hell out of the way,
right?
And let everybody make their own decisions and just supply a tool that's only purpose was to visualize an in-person tabletop. So not a full game platform,
right?
Not anything that's going to track all of your scores and all of your rule sets and all of your game mechanics, but just a tabletop visualization platform.
So it sounds like we're still in a mode of you trying to solve for your group, right?
Yep.
So the one idea about going to game stores and selling tables with TVs and stuff like that, that's gone because of the store shutting down. You're trying to get to play online, that you get a blocker there. You say, hey, you know what? Let's just make a tool that we can use. When do you start going, I think other people are going to enjoy this? When did that idea first pop in your head?
I did it was actually the game, the picture that's up right now. It's a very apt question because this was a one shot that I ran for a bunch of people that I worked with at the time. And they were all beginners. So we just had like a beginner's night, come over, beer and pizza, do some game, take a break, have more beers, probably more pizza, finish out the game. And some of them were software developers and all of that. So they came over, they learned D&D that night, 5th edition, and learned how to play and got to use this thing. And they were like, so when are you going to market this? And we were, to be honest, we were pretty bummed about we had the whole table plan and we had the whole thing going, and then it just immediately overnight shut down.
Yeah.
So it hadn't really, I really wasn't motivated and in the headspace to take it further than that. But then once these really smart guys are like, when are you going to market this? Because if you don't, I'll build one and do it. It's like, you guys don't even know anything about it. So that was kind of the like, well, okay, maybe I should get over it and stop feeling sorry for myself and ask around. So we did more beginners nights where we did the same thing. We actually talked to a whole bunch of people to see if they would be interested in something like that. And it just kind of took off from there. And anecdotally, we still use this table, and we actually use it with Tabula Sono. Nice. So we do what we call hybrid games. So we'll actually have people sitting around the table with Sono running inside the TV from a very top-down view, so that you can see the miniatures on there. And then the people that are sitting around the table are going to put physical miniatures on top of the digital ones so that they can move them around. And the people that are joining from across the country, they still have the same visual representation that everybody else does. We put them on a little screen, so it's basically like the robot face at the end of the table. And we have a good time doing that. So it's not the table concept is still alive.
That's really, really awesome.
So Jim, you're cleaning up the next morning. You're cleaning up the pizza boxes. You're getting rid of the beer bottles. You've had a couple of these nights where you're teaching people D&D and kind of putting this platform to task. What's the next step? So, at what point does it become maybe more than just you or you and your wife?
I asked my mom first.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, I got a crazy idea, and I think this is you remember what happened the last time. Is this crazy? And she was like, no, it's not crazy. So start getting people together and see if you can find people that'll help you. Because it's not like most of my team, Ray included, we've been building digital products for decade now, over a decade, like 15 years. I'm getting old. But normally when we do that, we're doing that with, there's an established budget, there's an established timeline, there are established metrics, like here's what success looks like, here are our key performance indicators. It's very regimented and it's very formulaic. So going about something like this, where it was just like, oh no, you're in charge. Success is on you, failure's on you. Good luck finding the money. That kind of stuff. It was pretty daunting. But then Rachel stepped in to help out with the research on all of those things about how do we do this and how do we do that. And then we had kind of a windfall where all of it was me, Rachel, and Paul, our lead developer. We were all in a situation where we could basically just stop working for a little bit and work on just this.
Wow.
And the stars kind of aligned. And when that happened and everybody was just suddenly available to go for a little bit without pay and to make this happen, I was like, okay, I get it. We'll do it. We'll do it.
And who used the K word first? Who's the first person that brought up Kickstarter?
I think that was me. I think we were going through and we were looking through different options and things like that. And we initially went, just because of our previous experience, we initially went the traditional investment route. We looked into venture capitalists and things like that. That it's just not a market that supports that kind of money and that kind of investment. So we started looking towards more community focused things. And that was one of the things that we put on the list to research.
So another thing that we wanted, another goal that we had when we started looking into the K word, we also didn't really want to end up sort of beholden to others' contracts and like somebody else's KPIs.
Yep.
So when we decided to go this route, that was one of the big things was we wanted to make this our own because we knew the need, because we were going through the need. So being able to keep those, what's important to us, and then sharing that out with others in the community, that was important for us too, and not having to get bogged down in, in producers or licenses or anything like that.
Yeah.
So quick question on that then, Ray. You guys are just green and innocent when you start up the Kickstarter for the first time, and then you go through that entire process. What were the biggest learnings for you guys as a team, having gone through from spinning up a Kickstarter, promoting the Kickstarter, and then fulfilling it? What did you learn?
We learned so much. I think we were totally innocent. We knew way less than we thought we knew going into it. We did tons of research and we were like, here's what we need to know. We need to know these 3 things. This is what we're going to do. It didn't go the way that we thought it would go.
How so?
And well, it's just once you get in there and you start learning the things that you need to know. And obviously hindsight is always 20/20. But once we started to realize the things that are actually important, that's not really what the top 10 things to know about Kickstarter tell you. Like, they can't really teach you that in those blog posts. So I would say I'm interested in what Jim's perspective is on this too, but I would say that the biggest learning that I saw was I'm try to articulate this, not to underestimate the people that we were talking to and the people that ended up supporting us.
What do you mean?
Not to underestimate the power that the community has. And when the people sort of come together and show support, that's honestly why we are where we are today.
Interesting.
Like, ad dollars versus building community. The community just 10 times over was what has gotten us here. So
yeah. And we definitely underestimated that when we were going into it. Specifically, I think we were going for quantity right? We're going on that cast a wide net, get as many people in as possible. But what we underestimated was the level of support that individuals would bring to the table. So we made our higher tier Kickstarter things, like the advice that everybody gives you, which is not always right, about how to do your Kickstarter tiers, is to get what you think is the maximum anybody ever would in their right mind would pay, and then go one step above. And we filled out our top tier within hours. Just because.
So hold on, Jim. So what was this top tier that filled out so quickly?
It's a 5 lifetime subscriptions to give to whomever you want. Lots of
cool.
like recognition and spotlights and in the credits, and a whole bunch of other stuff like that. And it's a top dollar thing. And we were thinking that people would come in and, do the $5 and the $10 thing to just get their name up there and be involved. But we underestimated the amount of people that understood the mission rather than just the end product, and we're actually behind it rather than just like, I'll throw some money at it.
Yeah, and the dedication to that. And we've found after the fact and doing some surveys and stuff, we had thrown a bunch of extras into our reward tiers, especially because Tabula Sono at its base is a free product.
Right.
So we're like, to get people to back some of these higher tiers, let's offer them this. We handmade a bunch of dice sets. We did a lot of cool stuff. But what we heard, especially from those top tier backers, is that they weren't backing because of any of the rewards. They were backing because someone even explicitly said they didn't care about the other rewards. They were backing because they wanted to see the product launch and because they believed it would fill a need.
So a quick question, this is really for all of you, is, these blog posts, this advice that you got, I mean, it's out there for a reason, right? And it does apply to a lot of different Kickstarters. You guys figure out ours is different, right? There are rules that are standard rules that apply to most Kickstarters that aren't applying here. Ours is a little different. Looking back on it now, what was different about this product that made some rules not apply that do for others and brought in a whole new set of rules? What's different?
It's free. That's the number one difference. If you watch a video that says top 10 things I wish I knew about Kickstarter, or how to succeed on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, 99% of the times they're selling a physical product that's going to go in a box and get shipped to your house. And then your alternate tiers are, but wait, there's more. We can send you 2 of those products. So because they have this like very tangible and concrete thing that they're selling, the value there is pretty obvious. As long as you can demonstrate that quick thing, they know they can understand the value very quickly. So our battle was always very quickly like elevator pitch people to have them understand the value to come in. Because if I show you like, oh, here's this 3D printer product, it's on Kickstarter, you got it. Like, you're like, okay, I know what that means. I know what that is. I can look into it if I'm interested or not. But the concept of a 3D in-browser virtual tabletop, you can't just say that. You have to show, you have to explain. So our battle was always, we needed people to stick around for long enough, which is more than the general 3-second attention span of, you're going to have to spend at least 5 or 9 seconds to understand what this thing is and to really understand the value. So that was always our battle, was we needed a little bit more attention and a little bit more time than what all of the people that have the tips and the tricks and the how-to blogs, they're focusing on immediate attention grab. They're doing the quantity over quality piece. Whereas I think with us, because we had a free product that was harder to describe and explain, we, hindsight again, of course, but we should have gone more the mission focused and community focused route rather than we followed the tutorials and the how-tos.
Yeah. Now, shifting gears a little bit, I come from a software background. I've been a part of. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I am on a bit of a. My internet is terrible, but I have a question from the chat. Felix wanted to know, in how many hours was the K did?
I love how K word's a thing now.
The K, yeah. It's not even capitalized, right? Let me see that again. Yeah, it's not even capitalized. So 0 and 3 are the two answers. We started our first Kickstarter and we decided to cancel it because those learnings came very quickly as soon as we
How did you
launched.
know, Jim? How did you know? We need to shut this down.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of data mining beforehand. Like when Rachel says we did a lot of research, we did a lot of research. So we understood what trends looks like and what graphs looks like for successful Kickstarters, for Kickstarters that drag on, for Kickstarters that just barely make it in the last 10 minutes. And we were not on the path that we wanted to be on.
Mm.
And then we got, for the people that actually did show up and were all about it, we solicited a lot of feedback from them. And we got a lot of really good feedback about what was necessary, what was not necessary. The second go around, we changed our tiers up quite a bit. We did some early bird incentives for the second time we launched for the people that were there the first time. But so the answer to the question for Felix is 0 on the first one. We did not fund the first one. We canceled within, I think it was like 3 or 4 days. We were like,
amazing.
Let's regroup and count this as a learning victory. And then the next time we were funded within an hour.
Wow.
And then we ended up going in and it was triple funded at the end of the 30 days.
So when you have a product and you are then going through iterations and development, one of the big challenges is deciding what features to add. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? Which is how important is this feature? How popular is this feature? How easy would it be to do this feature? It's a lot of spinning plates that I think people outside of the industry who have never been a part of that really don't quite understand. It's all we're all experts. Like, why don't you just have it do this? Yeah. What I'd be interested for you though, Jim and team, is there's features in there that you put in there that nobody asked for. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's features that were asked for that you put in there, and then everything is in a spectrum somewhere in between. Is there any feature that surprised you, a feature that you added to this platform that everybody was just like, holy cow? Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah. Let me go first and then see what Jim's is. Importing floor maps. We thought it would be a neat idea. In the beginnings of Sono, it was just a gridded floor, basically, and we were building on top of the floor. So we were building, it was more like whiteboard or battle mat style, and we were just kind of drawing and moving minis as we go. So we thought importing floor maps would be a cool idea. We did it. It felt very cool. But when we released it, it kind of went nuts. And I think it's been one of the widest used features, and people just love it. And even when you would say that to people that you can import your 2D floor maps, they're like, what? Yes. Because people have libraries of maps, and they can just upload it, and then you can build on top of it. And so that kind of
I have libraries of all those maps. And I'm always like, what can I add next?
Yeah. So it tripled the cool factor. And I think people really loved it. And for us, it started out almost as an afterthought. So that one was a surprise to me.
Well, and being an outsider, Ray, what's interesting to me about that is that it gets into what Jim talked about from the beginning, which is get out of the way, right? So stop. I mean, everybody's got these maps. They want to bring it in. Let's get out of the way and just let them do it. And then they latch right onto it. What's been a surprise for you, Jim? Is there a feature that you just did not expect outside of the floor maps?
To add on to the floor maps, though, the thing that really surprised me and the reason that it got crazy is because we launched the feature, we released a dev log about it, and we're excited, and here's a quick how-to, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And then one person says, can I turn it sideways and make it a wall? And I was like, yeah, you could definitely do that. And then people just started doing all kinds of crazy buildings and whatever, just by using two-dimensional images and building their own creations. And so it still wasn't the super high fidelity, I spend 6 hours building something that I know my players aren't going to use.
Right.
So it was it was quick and easy enough so that you could just kind of build it and go, but it still added to the immersion level. And I was so impressed when I was people invited me into their games. They're like, here's a game link, come see what I did. They pop in there and I'm like, holy crap, this is really cool.
Oh, that's got to be an amazing feeling to know that
Yeah.
to be the person who made the tool. And, you know, you have no idea, like when you create a tool like this, you have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah. And that's why, yes, Aaron, exactly. It's I know you already have stuff, right? You have a library of 2,243 miniatures that you were going to 3D print before the pandemic hit. And now you're like, what do I do with all of these?
Yeah. And a quick shout out to Aaron and the whole Queen Court group. Those guys are doing some great work. So if you haven't checked them out, you definitely need to. All right. So now I'm going to give you, what did Navi have to say? Completely agree, Navi.
So
Yep. So now I'm going to give you the boomer question. You ready?
Do it.
You got a free product. How are you going to make any money? What's the business model?
So the business model is community centric, which again, that was like way out of our wheelhouse when we were starting, because that's not a concept that was in the products that we generally worked with. So we did a lot of research on it though, but the idea here is free product, so that most people can just get in and enjoy it. And then we have our devout group of kind of followers that are going to subscribe for added benefits. And
like
at the very beginning, we were struggling with, what do we make free? What do we put behind a paywall? What do we put behind this kind of wall? Just again, coming from more of the corporate nickely dimey type, squeeze every cent out that you can. So we made a determination and kind of a pact early on, like, this is not about the money. This is not how we're going to get rich. This is how we're going to share what we love with the world. And if we can make it break even or pay for this really expensive hobby that we're doing, that's awesome. So that's kind of the mindset that we went in. And once we switched that switch and we flipped it and we were like, okay, so this is not about the money. This is about this. And if we can break even, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we make free? Everything that we have planned. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. So I want you to be able to go through and play an entire year-long campaign without paying a dime. What's going to happen then, and the theory was, and it turned out to be true, is that the people that get in there and really like it are either going to A, want more, or B, want to support it. So that's the community side of things. It's like, I use this and I get so much support out of it. It's the Patreon model. Like, I want to give back and I want to throw some money back in there. So the subscription benefits that we have are, we can get into this a little more on the techie side in a bit, but we run all of our own servers. A lot of VTTs, especially the 3D ones, you have to run your own server in your basement and open up ports and firewalls and all of those things. And if you can't use that computer, the whole game is lost. You got to start over. We're doing all of that. So that's all in the cloud. You can join from any device and all of that. That was one of our lines in the sand at the beginning. And that costs us money. So we spend quite a bit of money. So for every time you import a new miniature or you import a floor map or you create a new game or more people join, like, those things cost money. So those are the things that we're limiting. So you can create a game for free and go through the whole thing. If you want more game slots, so you can run a whole bunch of games at once, you can subscribe to get that. That's or cool. You can purchase a game slot. If you want to pull in a few minis here for your player model and for this thing and this big bad guy, that's cool. If you want to pull in 1,000, you got to subscribe for that. So that's how we keep our costs down and keep things rolling. We also have a really cool subscriber benefit coming up in the next couple weeks. And that's all I'm going to say, I think.
Terrible, Jim. All right.
I
know, right? So what's kind of neat for me right now is that I've got 3 people involved with this product, and each of you are doing something very, very different. So I'm going to ask this question of each of you, and Kato, I'm going to start with you.
Yes.
I'm going to fast forward you 4 years. All right, and I'm going to ask you, it's 4 years from now. How do you know that you've been a success in what you're doing? How are you going to measure success 4 years from now as a community manager?
The beauty of the gaming community is it's probably one of the most fast-paced communities. Like, it is so current, it is so up to date, it is constantly moving. Like, even just the Discord groups alone that I am in that are like various streamers who are meeting up at Gen Con, and like we're all going to be there. Like, suddenly you are like hurtled first into this community that's existed for, you know, since the 70s when D&D was first brought into existence, and maybe before that as well. And I guess I just see, like, I don't know, 4 years from now, it's difficult to say. Like, I do hope that Twitch continues to be a really strong platform.
Why?
Because I think that there is something really lovely about it. I think there's something really wonderful in terms of how a bunch of really nerdy people like to communicate, which is like in real time often. Yep. So the option to be on a Twitch platform, I grew up as someone who, I have an older brother, and he was very much like, you can be in the room watching me play video games, but you can't talk. So I was already preconditioned to watch Twitch streams from the jump.
Yeah.
But in a way, it did kind of create this sense of community. So I think that I'm hoping that Twitch can continue to up and not become like this over.
You know, in 4 years, we're going to get you a new
I
internet.
hope that it is something that maintains the integrity of the community.
Yep.
So bad. I just saw one little bar, like
you're fighting Kato. No, we got most of that, which I think is great.
I know.
Now, how about you, Ray? We fast forward 4 years from now, and I'm looking at Ray 4 years from now, and I ask her, Ray, how's it going? You're like, huge success. What would make you say that 4 years from now?
Honestly, so I think I want other people to use it. To me, that is kind of the measure of success.
Okay.
We use it. We're going to continue to use it indefinitely. I think our lifetime subscriptions technically end in like 206 years or something like that. So we're going to keep using it.
Love the optimism.
To me, I think success is just, I want to see other people using it, because that makes me feel good, especially when we see what others are doing with it. It's so fun for me. I just get so inspired seeing what other people are doing, and then that knowing that they're kind of benefiting from all of the work that we put into it. It's not just us at the end of the day getting to play with it, it's others. So that's kind of it for me. I think if people are using it in 4 years, I will be happy we did it.
It'll be a success for you. And all right, how about for you, Jim? 4 years from now, Jim is sitting there and going, man, we are just kicking ass right now. How would you measure that?
I'd look at the graph of monthly active users, and if it's going up, we did it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, like, it doesn't have anything to do with top line revenue, with our costs or expenses, or how much money we're making, or what we're putting in our pockets. It's, are people continuing to see the value that we're bringing, and continuing to see what it is that we're trying to achieve, and coming along on the journey with us? That was really hokey. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, Jim. I'm gonna quickly do another question before anybody realizes it.
Yeah, thanks.
So I have not forgotten your terrible little tease from about 4 minutes ago. So I'm going to not let you get away with that. I want to talk a little bit about what we can look forward to. So what are things that we can talk about that are right around the corner? Yeah.
So more subscription perks for sure. And that's something that that was always our goal, was we're going to start out as free as even closely possible. And that's the idea behind the Kickstarter, is you could please support us if you want to. And if you don't want to, we'll see you in August, because it's free and you can just pop right in. But the first year of Sono is always about beefing up all of our free offerings and getting everything up to par with some other systems. And we're a small team, so we've got to stay competitive with that. And it's a lot of work to do that. But that's it. Setting up the foundation for long-term success. And then after that, it's going into some of these really smaller niche pieces that we're calling plugins. Mm-hmm. So we have a dev kit that developers can join in. Right now it's invite only.
Wow.
If anybody wants into the developer access, it's mostly JavaScript based. Just let us know. Pop into the Discord and ask, and we'll get you in. But so things like dice rolling for non-D20 dice. We have dice rolling for D20 based systems. We don't have dice rolling for Fate. But you know what? Somebody can pop in if they've got enough technical knowledge. They can build that, throw it in there, share it with the community. So that's one of the bigger things, and that's something that you see with a lot of VTTs after the first
Super smart move.
year or two. Is we only have so much time and capacity, and we also want to spend our time and capacity doing the core and the foundational work for the most part. So that's one of the big things, is more of those community-based plugins and kind of smaller quality of life features in there, and then lots of subscriber perks, 250 of them starting off with anyway. So
that's very cool. Well, guys, I think I have gotten through my questions, so I guess I'll turn it back over to Cato and Ray.
Can we look at I think Navi had a really good question.
Yeah.
Not a question, it was a statement.
Yes. Yes,
So
we have some good chat stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there it is. So Navi said earlier, a market for letting publishers sell asset packs for their IP is how you get rich. Maybe not, but I want that for you. And I want the asset packs so you know self-serve. Yeah, so Navi, we want your asset packs. So we do have plans for a creator marketplace. The question there is the return on that, and whether we have the right people in it at the beginning. There's a lot of I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, so I'll leave names and even broad strokes out of it. But there's a lot of VTTs out there that are great platforms, and they're actually brought down by the quality of the content. Yep. You go in there and you see like, oh my gosh, there's thousands of these things, and it's really hard to find what you're looking for. And then once you do find something, you're like, oh, here's the cheapest one. Let me pull that one in. And you're like, I'm not happy with this one. And it's just kind of off-putting. So we have to make sure when we get to that point that we're curating responsibly, at least at the very beginning, so that everybody that's come to expect a certain level of quality can continue to get it. So that's the Navi says, I also cast my vote for a curated marketplace. Yeah, because you'd be at the top of the list.
So the other thing, the Drakes are definitely at the top of my list. If you're asking me about a curated marketplace, because the other thing, without again throwing huge brands under the bus, one of the other things that we wanted to do with Tabula Sono was create a platform that was not just like rule system agnostic, but also fitting a lot of different genres. So getting smaller tabletop RPG games into Sono is so fun. And so it's like, how can we mutually benefit? Tabula Sono is a virtual tabletop, but if you can cross those and get some of these smaller games that are I just stopped myself because I was about to use the word frankly and didn't want to say the word frankly.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't just say it twice.
Some of these games out there are amazing. Yeah. And so just getting like helping to spread that and pulling in some of there's so much magic and creativity when you get deep into this community. It's like let's spread the assets out a bit. It doesn't have to all be the same characters that we're used to seeing. So that's the other thing that's really exciting about the potential for that.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add there, Ray, is that a lot of these quote unquote smaller games are smaller in the number of people that play them. But what I have noticed is somebody who on my channel, you do not see a dragon game on my channel. I play and feature games big and small, but not the biggest one, right? The one thing I have discovered is how passionate the community is. So even though it might be smaller, they are passionate about these smaller games, and the Drakes are a perfect example of that. The games that they've made, they have a rabid core group that play those games and absolutely love it. So I think that's very smart and interesting, and it differentiates you guys.
Yeah, I mean, so we were talking about early on, like how do we decide what we build and what we don't build? We had some serious lines in the sand at the beginning, and that made me kind of unpopular with the team on some things because they're like, "Come on, come on, can't we just do this? Can't we just do this?" I'm like, let's just draw that line. Let's get through this. Let's get everything launched. Let's
Smart.
give it a year and let's see how things pan out. And I was wrong about a couple of them. But that's product development.
We don't
You're
talk about
always
that.
right until you launch, and then you realize where you got wrong. But there were a couple things that one of them was the easiest way for us to have gotten this thing out the door was not Kickstarter. It was going to some publishers, some very large publishers that we had relationships with from previous things, and Work Collie, this and that, and Kevin Bacon was involved, I think, at some point tangentially. But that was a 7 Degrees joke. I don't actually know Kevin Bacon.
I'll believe you. Go ahead.
I was
Sorry
like,
about
wait,
that.
was he?
No, he wasn't. But so that would have been the easier route for us, is to say we're going to take some of your money that you have lots of. We're going to put your stuff at the top of every screen, and we're going to make sure that when people use our platform, they know about your stuff. And then the thing that rubbed me the wrong way about that kind of dealing is the same thing when you in the corporate world, like when the investors are in charge.
Yep.
They know what they're talking about, but they don't always know what they're talking about. So that was like a surefire way for us to get pigeonholed into we're just kind of following the money and all of this. So that's why we were very careful. And that line was in the sand of the first year, we're not putting third-party content in our system, because as soon as we get the wrong one in there, we got a kind of a slippery slope thing that would happen. So,
Well, and that's a story, Jim, that's as old as time, because what investors want is different than what you want, right? Because their goals are different, and you guys have a very clear North Star, a very clear sense of what you want this to be, and you maintaining that independence is your only chance of being able to continue to, head the ship in that direction. As soon as you allow other voices to come in that have different goals than what yours are, it's gonna pull you in either direction. I think that's really interesting and smart.
yeah.
So, switching gears a bit, it looks like our friend Roadhawk had to leave, but he had a couple of great questions that I think we should talk about.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know, Thomas Roadhawk, he's actually very involved in the neurodivergent community.
Oh, wow.
So we've been working with him on some things specifically for neurodiversity and how we can help. And everybody, I don't think it's a secret that games that are TTRPGs that allow you to escape but still have rules around what's possible and what's not. That's a really, really helpful way for people to express themselves, to express their fears, to express their anxiety, and to kind of work through those types of things. So that's where Roadhawk is coming from, is that side of things. So just for a little bit of context there.
Yep, and he does some really great work in the community as well.
That's great.
So I want to say, in to his question, we were a bit surprised at how strongly the neurodiverse community reacted to Tabula Sono in the positive. There's a focus thing that we learned that was it was kind of a byproduct. We didn't go in intending to solve something, but realized that there was this benefit. What I've noticed, there's a focus thing. And when Jim was talking a while back about our online games starting to shift toward being almost narrated movies, and I would find myself, okay, I'm listening, I'm pretending to listen, but now I'm going to my phone and I'm going over here and I'm doing this and I'm not in it. And what we found with Tabula Sono, there's something about the openness of that world combined with the player controlled camera. You have control of your own camera, your own mini. That's huge. Then keeping that, it's less about the details of the scene and it's more about the visualization of place. and it actually pulls you in, and it's easier to stay in and stay connected with the people that you're playing with as you're playing. So it makes sense, but we were very pleasantly surprised and actually honored kind of by how much positive feedback we got from some people who are doing really great work with neurodiversity. And
That's great.
Yeah.
Also in therapeutical, nice, good word. Hitting that's a good one. Therapeutical circles. Yeah, but even there's a couple. Geek therapy is somebody that we've talked to a couple times, and the idea of this escapism, it's sometimes hindered by super vivid imagery that's prescribed to you. So
Right.
if I show you a picture of a lakeside, that's my picture that you now get to consume. But if I describe to you that lakeside and I say there's flowing blue water, there's a slight breeze coming from the south, and there's frogs chirping in the background and whatever, if I asked you to draw that picture and you to draw that picture and you to draw that picture, it would be 3 very different pictures. And that's an extension of you. So when you get to literally paint the picture that someone else is describing, it's so much more magical. But the problem is sometimes it's hard to focus on all those descriptive words and things like that if you can't focus your energy into actually painting the picture. So we found it like fills a hole that we did not know existed there. And it was one of those intangibles where we were like, what did we lose in this platform when we went from in person to virtual? Like we couldn't quite figure it out. But then once we started getting into it, we were like, it's fidgeting. It really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give yourself something to do so that you can take this like huge wave of information that's coming in and then channel it somewhere. That's not just boring notes that we'll ask you to recap at the beginning of next section because we weren't paying attention.
Yeah, being able to spin your minis, yes, please.
Yeah.
If I can't spin my minis, I can't listen to your whole DM intro.
Yep.
Also, another surprise feature when we released this, well, it wasn't super a surprise, but it was a small feature. The ability to hold down Y on the keyboard and change your up and down axis on your own.
CCs.
Yes, axes.
That was world changing for me. Up and down, up and down.
That was one that we didn't even think about. We were thinking like 2-dimensional plane type thing, cool, just move your minis around, just like if it was a whiteboard. And then we're like, but wait a second.
There's a third axis.
Now you can fly. Or even better, now you can burrow. So now you have a visual representation of a burrowing creature, which happens in a lot of TTRPGs. And when you're on a flat plane, you can't really visualize that. So it gives you opportunities to do that and to move around. And if you are fidgety and anxious, go ahead and make your miniature fidgety and anxious. That's cool. Because then it's just kind of more of an extension. So. Oh yeah.
Well, and for a lot of people, that ability to do the fidgeting is how they process, right? Which is, I think, really what you're saying is it's a way that that neurodivergence, some people with neurodivergent spectrums are able to process information, but they need to have both of those. And Ray, I think you said it best, which is now you don't have to go to your phone, right? You can fidget within and stay within the whole thing. That's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Focus, man. Yeah, by the way, I've been fidgeting with this little pop thingy and this pin the entire time. So
I have, can I do this on a live stream? I have a pair of tweezers that I've been playing with. I don't know why. And also a little amethyst power. I don't know where the tweezers came from, but
it's hairless, right? You got it all out of the crystal.
Right, yeah.
Oh, and Kato has fangs. Wonderful.
Yeah.
God, I feel like I'm so boring. I've just been running my mouth.
What, have you just been sitting there the whole time?
I know, right? A lot more exciting things happening below the bottom frame. I know.
Yeah, so that did kind of catch us by surprise. The amount of movement that people were pulling in, because what I honestly thought is when you're the wiggling, yes, exactly. When you're in most VTTs, it's kind of like you move your token and then I'm going to go way back here, and I'm just going to wait and wait
Yep.
and wait. Somebody tell me when I need to do something else. But when you have that opportunity to have those little micro motions, find that people do it all the time. And at first I thought that's going to be super distracting. We're going to like, people are going to be spinning around in circles and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But if they're spinning around in circles, they're actually paying attention.
Right.
And that was the connection that I didn't quite make. So that was what surprised me, is I was like, people are going to abuse this and they're not going to be paying attention, and I'm going to contribute to the whole lack of attention span. But it was quite the opposite. So,
well, and let's be honest, Jim, that's a table culture thing too, right? You know,
Mhm.
so the ability to do that at some tables is going to fit the culture and be a critical part of them being able to play.
Yep.
If your table culture does not encourage that type of thing, then guess what? You don't have to do it. But I love the idea that you've got that flexibility. Again, bringing us back to something that was said at the very beginning, which is you're getting the hell out of the way.
yeah, if you want to wiggle for battle, wiggle for battle. If you don't. It's all good.
That's cool.
So I think we have, let's see. I was going through chat to see if there's any other ones that we missed from earlier.
There was a really great one from Aaron at QCG. I'm finding it. Hold on.
Here.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes. So the question is, have you found developers, publishers struggling to make the most of a 3D VTT? And is there capacity at Tabula Sono to assist folks in that process? Yes and yes. So there's a lot of inherent issues that come with 3D software, and it's really hard right off the bat. If you're most developers that are coming in are, and I was this, so I'll say this without worrying about pulling my punches. Coming in a little bit naively about what that means and how things work. So when you're talking about the idea of you've been seeing things on two-dimensional paper and screen like this all your entire life, it is not intuitive when you add that actual third dimension in. The amount of math that's involved is outstandingly staggering. If you don't know what a quaternion is,
Quaternions. Effing quaternions.
you can die happy. Do not Google that if you want to keep your sanity. So these concepts, they're just like, they're so ingrained in the video game developers community, but they do not cross over. Just because you understand web development, it does mean that you can understand like application development. There's a lot of crossover there. But as soon as you throw in that third visual dimension, and we're talking about graphics instructions to processors and things like that, it gets so low level that it goes back to like the real roots of computer science rather than just the practical application thereof. So yeah, Tiger, quaternions.
So quick question on that.
That's a curse word in my house, by the way.
That's funny. So let's go to the heart of Aaron's question then. So how do we help then, right? How do we help, knowing that there's that hurdle, that there's going to be people using this that do not, create in 3D? How do you help them?
So for publishers, Navi hit on the answer earlier, is a creative marketplace, so that we can help smaller creators curatedly get into the system, so that they have another foundation or another place to push out peddle their wares.
Yeah.
or just another way to showcase, because everybody's looking at the really cool book graphics that are in the books, because everybody's got a book. So what can you do to set yourself apart? Pull your stuff into a 3D visualization tool and use that in some of your pieces. So, but the big thing for developers is our dev kit. Get in touch with us for the dev kit stuff, because we have abstracted a lot of those things away. We use almost exclusively Euler angles instead of quaternions, which we lovingly call redneck quaternions. But we're just abstracting away a lot of these weird things that you just really don't need to know if you're not going to be operating at such that low level of the API level of things in the SDK. You don't need to know that. So we extract all of that stuff out, and we give you hooks on a miniature moved from this coordinate to this coordinate. Do math if you want to. Don't do math if you don't want to. React to that action that happened. It's a very event-driven thing. So there's a really good opportunity to get into it. And then, Aaron, we've also had a couple other people come up to us that this is kind of heartbreaking when it happens, but they're like, I love what you guys are doing so much. I'm thinking about making my own 3D virtual tabletop. Would you do it again if you could? Like, well, you're asking me the wrong question. I would do it again if I could, because I already went through all the hardship of learning all of these things and getting down to it. But if you're looking at it now, we're in 2023. It's an extremely saturated market in terms of virtual tabletops overall, in terms of 3D technology. So you're starting way behind the 8-ball, and the learning curve haven't even started on it. So sometimes when people come to me with those types of conversations, I have to have the hard talk with them, and I'm hoping that and a couple of those people we pulled into DevKit, and they've gone through to make some cool plugins, and that's enough to kind of satiate that desire of, I want to build something and I want to be a part of something. But yeah, so I hope, did that answer the question, or did I totally like?
No, I think it definitely did.
All right, I'm looking through chat again. Somebody said, "Not today, Satan." That's cool. All right, so specifically, I think one of the other things, I thought I saw it asked earlier, but I'm not quite sure. This is for Rachel. So, people were talking earlier about making your job a little bit easier because you don't have to create content all the time. If you can leverage other people's content.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of leveraging other people's content, we now have 1,001 miniatures in our free library. Why do we have so many when we don't need that many? And what are a couple things that you're proud of about the library and how the library's turned out?
Yeah. Okay. And so first of all, there's this, designers and artists will know there's this struggle when Jim tells me I don't need to create content. Oh, I'm also a Gemini. So my brain is literally at the same time going like, yes, I don't have to create content, and also being like, but I want to create content. What am I supposed to do? So it's always a struggle because I want to just run into the content ocean, and I do want to create 8,000 assets and give them to people. But then Jim asks for literally 2 things, and I'm like, what? When do you need that? So it's always a struggle. The library in Sono, we concepted that thing multiple times. We've even tried to reconcept it to make sure that the concept we landed on was the correct concept. So we wanted, number one, we wanted back to that mission that you can semi-feasibly sit down and run a full TTRPG campaign for free. We wanted to bring the library into that mission as well. So we wanted to have a lot of options. So you're not going to get bored with the characters and the monsters or creatures that you see because there are so many. We also want it to be easy to find. So a lot of the libraries that we run into are not easily navigable. So we did a bunch of boring stuff, but the end result was there's search in the library that is very smart and easy to use. One of the cool things we did was synonyms. So we did not want to get into licensing copyrighted material. So for example, if you're looking for a mind flayer, we didn't put any mind flayer models into our library because they're copyrighted. But if you search mind flayer in the library, you will find the one called Tentacle Beard because of the synonyms that we were able to program behind the scenes in the library.
And also it's a better name.
It is.
It is, yeah.
Tentacle beard. You have no questions, right?
Can we trademark that one? Let's do it.
I think you should.
We gotta fight Craig for it. He's already on the way to the trademark office. This is just like a looping video of him.
Yeah. Go try to buy the URL. It's already gone.
Right.
So yeah. And to be fair, that 1001 it's almost exclusively fantasy genre. So we talk about wanting to cross genres and stuff. Jim mentioned approximately 250 subscriber perks coming up. They are not in the fantasy genre.
Indeed.
Question for you on that, Ray. When you say, okay, we're not going to do just fantasy. We've got over 1,000 assets for fantasy. Can you walk me through the decision process to figure out what is the next genre? Like, where do you, as an art director, where do you start being able to navigate and decide what's next?
A lot of it is honestly just conversation when you're talking with people. And so I love fantasy. I would live in a fantasy forest if I could, but I can't. So just the fact that when you talk about games with people, sci-fi is always right up there with fantasy. In fact, they live next to each other a lot, but they're very different, actually. And war games are so popular. People are always like, and asking. We've heard so many times, can I use Tabula Sono for my war games? And the answer is yes. But if you're looking for some more like military style things, you're going to have to import them yourself currently. And we want to see if we can give you a starting point for some of those other genres. Probably first up sci-fi and war games before some of the other fun stuff.
Well, and again, this is
Steampunk,
where
diesel punk, those are picking up steam. Pun not
nice.
intended,
Well
I'm
done,
so
Jim.
sorry.
What are they picking up, Jim?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Water vapor, hot water vapor.
Well done.
But they're so they've got a decent market share, and they're kind of irking up. But yeah, so we just want to. Sean Drake actually said GMs can reach into the library and find exactly what they need without mental overhead, and that's huge. And that's kind of the goal in there. Is we've always been very. I don't want to say this out loud because it might offend people, but I'll do it anyway. As a forever DM, there are certain things that lots of players take advantage of with their DMs, and there's also lots of DMs that take advantage of their players. And I'm not into either of those things. I think that if we're going to have pizza, then we should switch off who buys it every night, so that it's not the DM is the one that's invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in books and miniatures and whatever and blah blah blah, and they are also going to buy the pizza and whatever. So there's a couple things that we put in specifically as a nod to a GM, like we see you and we know you work very hard, and one of those things. Okay, Drake, let's talk in a couple weeks. We're going to give away these subscriber perks by the end of the night. It's like a foregone conclusion. So we've done some GM nods in there. Like we know that as soon as we say, hey, you can import your 3D miniature into the game from Hero Forge, that everybody's going to go to Hero Forge. They're going to get the file and they're going to email it to their DM. So that their DM now needs to do this and that and whatever. So we're like, no, players can upload their own miniatures and use their own miniatures, because the DM and the GM, they already have a billion different things to think about, and they already have a billion different jobs. So if we can just take that one thing off your plate, we hope it makes a difference and it feels good. And then again, being surprised by people doing things that we didn't think of. We had one player that used up her import slots and had 5 different poses of the same miniature, and she would go into battle pose, and then she would go into strutting pose, and she would just switch out her miniature based on the where things were happening and what she was, and that was pretty cool.
And like Felix in our Monster of the Week, Felix has been his character is a spy, so he's been swapping his model from the investigator mini to a sentient bush with legs.
It's truly my favorite thing that I've seen.
The sentient bush.
Yes.
Now that reminds me of another crazy moment, but we'll get back to that in a bit.
Let's get back to it now.
Oh, it was another beginner's night. We actually took the table to the office way back when we were first switching over into the new stuff, and we had one guy that was just trying to be sneaky, and he had great stats and all that, but he kept rolling ones for everything. So then that's kind of a thing. Like I still play with him occasionally nowadays, and it's just a thing. So that prompted me to do a lot of investigation into the dice roller that we had built to make sure that it wasn't a bug, because we're like, is this even statistically possible that it's so bad? And it was statistically possible, and he just had really bad luck.
He just Will Wheatoned really hard, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Yep. Bush mode engage. That means something else out of context. So, I want to share a very boring screen. I'm sorry, this is super technical. I'm going to show you. So we took our boring ass corporate background stuff in software development and whatever, and there's some things like as far as operations go, maintaining the servers and all of these things, like this is just another Tuesday for us. Like people are like, how do you maintain all of that stuff? I'm like, literally do that in my sleep, because we've been doing it for 15 years now. But so there's a couple things that we can bring to the table that some of the other platforms don't. And Rachel was talking about searchability. Sean was talking about findability and just like being able to go in there and do it. So we spent a lot of time, effort, and energy on our search indices. And we're actually using some like very well-known professional platforms in the back end to make sure that when we pull things into the system, they're tagged appropriately, they're tagged descriptively, they're tagged in ways that screen readers can actually describe the miniature that you're looking at. That's so that it's not just like Bandit 6. Yeah. We're actually using very descriptive and accessible phrases. And we do all of that in a professional software environment that we've been using for other projects for a long time. So it's kind of cool to get to be able to pull that in there. But it's so there's a whole bunch of characterizations that we do. There's lots of taxonomy stuff that's in there. We're able to pull things into different things. We've got a couple things hidden at this point. We'll talk about those later. The tagging that we have, Rachel was talking about the synonyms that we have. That's also AI driven. So the more people search for things, it actually, within that session, if you end up clicking on something else, it's going to keep remembering that. And if more than a few people do the same thing and have the same patterns, the system adapts and starts giving you better recommendations over time based on what everybody else has already done. That's cool. So very, very boring screen to look at. I know that, but there's checkboxes. Checkboxes are cool. So I just wanted to
we even got into like grammar and spelling. So technically all of our half elf models, the term is actually half elven because it's a modifier. So if you're looking for the half elven blah blah blah, but if you type in half elf, the half elven search results are going to come up for you.
Yep, and branded terms. We don't have any hobbits, but if you type in hobbit, you're going to see lots of gnomes and halflings. Yep. So we spent a lot of time doing that because just like Sean was saying, we want it to be just go in there and start typing and start clicking, find what you want, put it in the game, and move on. Because the one of the least important things is getting that perfect. What's more important is getting on with the game and having the social interaction, and then having that tactile focus point that we were talking about earlier. It's really cool to get the perfect miniature, but it's also really cool just to spin it around really fast. So. Here's one for Rachel. The brand, green neon with some weird concrete-y type stuff. What's going on there? What's the motivation behind that type of brand?
Yeah, so we had when we decided to put Sono out there in front of people, we had a few like key ideas that we were trying to merge into one impression, I guess. So we want to still be relevant to TTRPGs. So the first thing you go to is a D20, because if you put a D20 on your stuff, everybody knows immediately what kind of world you're in. But we also wanted to be unique and recognizable to Sono. And so that was one sort of thing we set in the sand of like, can we show TTRPG without using a D20 in our logo? So that was a kind of challenge. And then the other thing is that we want to appeal to a wide set of eyeballs and different genres. So what we ended up with this, the neon and they're like the color gradients, but then mixing that with like these really dark, the heavier textures like concrete and stuff. The hope is that it feels kind of modern and kind of fresh, but it'll also still look really good next to dragons and fires.
Cool.
You can put it on a spaceship game and it fits perfectly. So a D20 hater. No, I love D20.
Sean's hatred of that die is legendary.
So yeah, that's what we're going for with the brand. We wanted it to kind of look fun and good up next to a lot of different types of systems. So I'm hoping that we kind of achieved that. I want to show my my D20 really quickly, if my camera will focus on it. Can you guys see this thing?
Oh, that's pretty baller. Where'd you get that?
So this guy, I think it's called Summit Dice. He's based in somewhere near Denver, near Boulder. We met him at Fan Expo Denver. He hand makes them. He 3D designs the dice and then has them basically printed in metal. But it's hard. The camera doesn't do it justice, but
Oh no, you get the idea though.
super geometric and it's like bronze. It's beautiful.
It's got Lego quality step on.
Honestly, I think the reason I started even playing TTRPGs was because D20s and because dice are so fun.
So quick question for everybody. Is everybody here a GM? Does everybody here run games or do we have just players? Okay. So if it's all right, I'm going to take a little bit of a right turn here. I'd love to get a sense of, well, let me start off this way, and Kato, we'll start with you if that's okay. In a sentence or two, how would you describe yourself as a GM?
Without getting too into branded content, I describe myself as a true neutral DM. I am never out for to me, I'm never out for a TPK. I'm never out to kill the party. I am all about collaborative gameplay. One of the things that I love, like playing lighthearted when we got to play that with Queen's Court, was the fact that the game master is called the director, and the player characters are the characters in the film. So we're collaborating on this artistic project. I really love approaching gameplay from a collaborative standpoint and creating a very cinematic world. And the aid of Tabula Sono visually, and then getting to imbue and like embellish the story from there was something that I really, really enjoy. And that goes across the board for all of the games I've played, like getting the opportunity to play Hedge with you all. I very much thrive in a world where players can share the spotlight. There's a lot of scene sharing. I come from an acting background, so I like to call myself a true neutral of, like, for lack of a better way of saying it, fuck around and find out. And that goes for everybody.
So, often when we think about role-playing games, we think about players and player characters leveling up, but GMs level up as well. So I'd be curious, Kato, what has been your biggest level up recently, where you feel like you've gone to another level as someone who can run a game?
I feel like I have a lot more confidence in my ability to learn systems and sometimes, albeit mistakenly in some cases, blaze forward than kind of hemming and hawing and belaboring. And I think I very much got caught up in like early DM life was, oh, we must adhere and we must adhere to it. And the opportunity to play as within the game and create memorable moments has been like such a huge level up for me. I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying about that collaborative effort for all of us, where everyone around the table, including the GM, is playing. It's so valuable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Okay, Ray, first off, give me a couple sentences that describes you as a GM.
Yeah, so I think I am definitely a chaotic good.
Which means what?
It means make things as crazy as possible. Sometimes Jim and I like to push each other's buttons. For anyone who's not aware, Jim and I are siblings. So we sometimes we know what makes.
The hell were you two thinking?
I know. So yeah, if you want to do something that is crazy, do it. And I'm going to make your results equally, if not more crazy. However, at the end of the day, I seriously 100% want everybody to be like happy and healthy and victorious and all nice, sunny things. So definitely chaotic good.
And what's a recent level up for you, Ray?
So I think a recent level up for me, it might be a little weird to say out loud, but when I finally realized, I've heard this and everybody around me has been really supportive. I'm fairly new to DMing, but when I finally understood that I don't have to have character voices and that's okay, that like I said, I've heard it, but when I finally realized that I can actually run games without having to create characters with my voice, it took a ton of pressure off. And I found I actually can sort of speak as different characters without the pressure of what does that one sound like again? I can just sort of get into them and use my own voice, have one voice. And I think that it sounds the same, but it can change with my characters without me having to be like, well, what should this one sound like? So that just let me get a little bit more, I think, fluid in running games.
And there's so many ways to embody an NPC, right? And it's not limited to just an accent or a tone of voice. One of the tips that really helped me a lot to do exactly what you're talking about is when I'm prepping or when I create an NPC on the fly, I put a phrase there, something that this NPC would say. So when I'm live and someone goes to interact with Jim, I can go to Jim's card. I can quickly see that Jim often says, "Leave me alone, kid." And just reading that phrase allows me to embody that person and be able to do that very quickly. So that's very cool. All right, Jim, a couple sentences. How would you describe yourself as a GM?
Okay. Lawful, chaotic. And I know that generally doesn't go together, but the idea for me there is, guys, the rules are there for a reason. Now let's break them.
Interesting.
So it's kind of the
reason is to break them.
Yes, my engineering background of like understanding is the key to everything, and then once you understand it, now question everything, and put everything into a different lens and play around with it and all those things. So I like games that have a medium amount of rule mechanic structure, but also lend themselves to rule of cool style things. So it's like, I want to try and do this. I want you to try and do that. Let's see what happens together. And then let's build out this moment together. And I think common goal between the three of us is we're all pretty benevolent gods when it comes to running our games. Is we just want everybody to have a good time. And that was I think your next question is going to be level up, right?
I don't know how you got that idea, but sure, let's do that, Jim.
I'll do that. Okay. So the level up that I had was relatively recently, but I say this a lot. You've probably heard me say this a lot just in the past hour. But there are some parallels between what I do for like making the money and paying the bills and what we do here. But sometimes there's just not. We can't rely on our previous knowledge of how to run a small to medium business in this sector or that sector or the hospitality industry or whatever. So a lot of that knowledge, I just say, like, put it off into a cart on the side. But the more I DM and the more I GM, the more I realize that is like the most versatile profession, whether it's professional or if it's hobby professional. That's the most versatile thing you can do, because everything that you do can lend itself to teachings or learnings that you can use. Either you can use that for yourself, like how do I become a better GM? How do I become a better storyteller? But for me, it was when I'm in a boardroom and I'm sitting around a table with a bunch of people in ties, I can read the crap out of them. And I can tell exactly what they're thinking based on their body language. Are their hands on the table? Are they fidgeting under the table? Are they doing this? What are their eyebrows saying? What's their body language saying? Like, I've trained myself so thoroughly in the sales dude bro role through the software development world that I can read people in those situations. So I think my biggest level up was, I was like, wait a second, we're all sitting around a table. I could read people's body language, not for evil and to sell them on my wares, but in this case, to see that what just happened, because that person just suddenly got uncomfortable. Let me rewind, replay that conversation, and I think I might have figured that out. So we're going to take a quick bio break. We're going to sidebar, and I'm gonna straight up ask you, like, what just happened, because we're going to avoid that trigger, or we're going to work through it, or whatever it is, like whatever makes it for you. Because as soon as you stop having fun, we're failing as a group. So that moment of realization of, like, this actually isn't different. I can use the same skills that I've learned in my evil job for good. That was pretty cool when I figured that out.
Two things real quick on that, Jim. One, safety tools. People just do it, please. Lines and veils, X card, have a session 0, just freaking do it. And if you never have to use it, then it worked. That's the thing you have to understand. If you've never had to use those safety tools, it's because they worked. Second piece, and Jim, I'm going to build off of this, and this gets into us talking about smaller games. If you only ever run D&D, great, right? If that is your system, you have system mastery, you love it, and it's all you ever do, there is nothing wrong with that. But if you're not reading other systems and you're not reading other games, you're cheating yourself, because they will impact how you run D&D. And there are so many unbelievable ideas out there. For every book of a system that I've run, I've got 15 books of different systems that I may never run, but I have read them and they've impacted how I did the one. So I think that's super important, Jim.
Yeah. Everything is relatable, and you can take anything from any other system, and systems inside the TTRPG world and systems inside, like, life as a whole.
Completely agree.
Can we make that into like a motivational poster or something? I feel like there's something in there.
With a cat hanging from a tree branch.
Yes.
And Craig, what about you?
I don't take questions, Ray.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
wait, where's the remove from stream button?
That's right.
Oh, I got it.
We
I got
lost
you. Hang
Craig. So how would I describe myself as a GM? I'm a supportive GM. I think that's probably the way I would do it is, and what I'm supporting is the table. So I'm not necessarily, so you guys talked about, being, supporting the players and things like that. That's part of it, but I'm also a firm believer in supporting the look, the feel, the genre. When I am running, Hedge, it's different than when I'm running Call of Cthulhu, right? They are different systems, they're different genres. And what I try to do as a GM is try to bring that and make that come alive at the table. On the level up front, I think the biggest thing that's helped me is to get rid of story. We often hear about, let's tell a story, let's build a story together. In my opinion, get rid of that idea. Okay. Just play, because story just happens.
Yep.
And if you walk into this as a GM thinking that you have a story to tell, you're cheating yourself and you're cheating your players, because I don't care how good of a story you think you have, it's dog shit compared to what's going to happen when you play at the table and watch what happens on its own. Story takes care of itself. And what I've learned to do is create situations.
Yep.
Create a landscape of this is what's happening, and then bring the agents of chaos in, and that's your players. Bring the players in, let them poke, let them punch, let them do everything, and then just react. And it's amazing what you can do on that. So it, just stop worrying about story. I think that's my latest like level up.
I like that. Yeah, let it happen. That kind of goes along with my get out of the way philosophy.
Yeah, it's wired into us, right? We will create stories around anything, right? I mean, that's how conspiracy theories happen, is because we have to create stories to explain things. You could argue religion.
I don't think conspiracy theories are real. So,
but
I don't think that's the thing.
But that's how our brains work, right? So if we see something that we don't
meta.
understand, we just naturally build narratives. We naturally build stories about things that happen. That's the way we're wired. And I think once that clicked in my head, I realized, hey, I think I could do better.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Great question, Ray. I don't know where you got that from. That was a good question.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one. I don't know. I just came up with it. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. All right, I have another question that we got asked early on that I wanted to throw out. Oh, no. We already covered that. We kind of covered that. So I get asked a lot, like, why did we do a Kickstarter for a primarily free product? Like, what were we even selling? And that was, again, it was more about building the community and building the awareness and letting people know about why we're doing this. So one of the coolest things that I've ever created in my entire life, I think, was the Kickstarter video that's on the Kickstarter campaign page. I still go back and watch it occasionally just to like remind myself of why we started and how cool it was. The lighting in it is just great. You'll love it. But that was to just go back and see like, well, this is what I thought we were building, and we were right about these things. And boy, were we wrong about those things. But that was the reason that we did the Kickstarter, just to answer that question. I think we touched on it before. What that is, I'll get to that in a sec, Navi. That was the kind of the catalyst, is we're like, we need the community around this, because again, we are jumping directly into a really saturated market where everybody had very strong opinions about what this tool should do and what it shouldn't do and how it should act and how it shouldn't react. So that was we're gonna stand our ground, and we're gonna go into a place that's going to allow us to kind of be ourselves and not hem-haw around the fact that this is what we're building, guys. And if you want to come along on the journey, please do.
Jim, having watched in the work that I do outside of tabletop industries, that's where things fail, is when you lose track of what we're trying to do and you lose track of that North Star. And something that I find very encouraging as somebody outside of the team is how often that's come up, that you guys have a clear vision and you're going to stick to that vision. You're not going to try to be everything for everybody. This VTT is not for everybody, right? There's other VTTs that are better for people. This is going to be great for certain people based off of this. And you're very, very transparent about what the goals are. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's actually been sometimes hard to stick to. You get a lot of questions that are, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this in Tabula Sono? And it's really hard to not say, oh, sure, let's figure out how to do that. Yeah. But when you go back to like the mission of what we're trying to do, we are literally and almost strictly just trying to bring your tabletop into your browser. Yep. And so that's one of the things with 3D dice rolling, it's not really happening. It's not happening in Sono. And one of the reasons, well, also I think physics and quaternions are one reason. But one of the other reasons is when you're sitting around the table, your table doesn't roll your dice for you. So we bring our dice, we bring our notebooks, our character sheets, our source books. Like we bring all of this stuff to the table. And so Tabula Sono is truly supposed to be your tabletop. It's just in your computer. And we don't want to get bogged down in all of the extras when we only have so much resource. So let's put it into the literal virtual tabletop, so we can still buy dice.
Well, and
Yes.
good news, right? If 3D dice rolling is your thing, and that's a make it or break it, guess what? There's a ton out there, right?
Yep, it's out
And that gets into that central
Yeah.
idea, which is this: you guys, again, you have a very specific goal, which is not going to satisfy everybody, and that's fine. But you are going to find people going, "This is what I needed. This is what it's going to be." The same thing, Jim, that you went through at the very beginning, where you're trying to look through all VTTs and nothing was satisfying it. There's going to be more people like you that are going to come across this and go, this is what I was looking for. And trying to become the Cheesecake Factory menu of VTTs is the recipe for disaster. So I think that's smart.
That's a good point, Craig. I was listening to a podcast the other day that was talking, it's got a couple actors on it who are kind of not A-listers, but working actors who were talking about this thing. And they were talking about when you start catering to everybody and start attempting to be liked by everybody, it just waters everything down so much and becomes so vague that you just, you don't even know what your product is anymore. And that like for everybody, but the people that we are so very for, that's why our community is so strong.
No, couldn't agree more.
One piece that I don't even, where are you watching from? I just got a text message from somebody with a question, and I don't see them on any of the watcher lists. But anyways, hi, Eric. I will answer your question now. So
behind the
question, yeah,
Behind the bookcase.
They're texting from inside the room.
Right.
Oh, God.
Nobody knows what's behind that door. It's literally a bathroom. But the question is, why in the browser? That's a question that I get all the time when I talk to more tech savvy people. Is they're like, oh, okay, so you're literally crazy and insane. Because a browser, just so that for context, if you don't know, a browser is meant to be a very safe space so that you can go and you can do things that won't interact with your computer at a whole. You're not going to get viruses through this. It's not going to install crazy stuff on there. It's intentionally sandboxed into this little secure environment that can only do what it was designed to do. Guess what it was definitely not designed to do? 3D graphics. So we literally had to work.
So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Because it's hard is not a reason not to do it. The reason not to do it is because it's not worth it. In this case, it turned out to be worth it. There were a few times where Quaternions, I was like, maybe this isn't worth it. But then once we started getting people in and they're like, holy crap, I can just click the link and join right in. And does it work on my grandma's Dell? And like, it actually does. So that the reason why we went browser was specifically because everyone has a browser and everyone can join in. You're like, if you're on Windows or if you're on Mac or if you're on Linux or if you're on something I've never heard of, does it have a browser? Because you can play. Yeah. So it's just that accessibility factor of getting everybody in and then staying out of the way. And it's actually acted as kind of a weird barrier for us where we're like, ooh, we should add this, and we should add this, and we should add this. Be like, well, hang on, because it's in the browser, it's maybe not worth it. And then it makes us turn around and look at the motivations of why we want to add it. This is back to the corporate side. Ooh, you know what you should do, or ooh, wouldn't it be cool if? Yep. Those are not ways to come up with product requirements. Nope. So that it just forced us to like pull down the excitement for just a sec, look into the level of effort. What would this give us? What's the return on investment? And all of those things. And it's helped us to stay the course over the little bit of time. But man, let me tell you, I have built some crazy things and some crazy software over the course of whatever. Can I say NASA or am I not allowed to? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, so I won't mention that.
You better not. Don't mention NASA.
but yeah, so some really crazy stuff. This is by far the hardest technical challenge that I've ever undertaken in my entire life.
It was harder than building Twitter.
Oh,
We're not
that
supposed
was
to
actually
mention that,
pretty
are we?
easy, so.
Okay.
You can't
What's-
say Twitter anymore.
Yeah, what's Twitter? I don't understand.
It's just the dial-up modem sound when you open your mouth.
Okay, so
All right,
real quick before we're getting close to time. So before we get into wrapping, I have a completely OT question.
Uh-oh.
And so my question is, which Barbie are you? I'll go first. Turns
Did you
out
take a BuzzFeed today on that?
I did. Yep. BuzzFeed. According to BuzzFeed, I'm Ken. Kato?
Is there a vampire Barbie? I'm literally
There is
Googling
now.
this right now.
Probably.
There is now. I'm seeing vampire Barbies. So I think I would probably be a vampire Barbie.
Love it. You do have fangs on your desk right now, right?
Do you know how many fangs I have? Look.
You have multiple.
We're gonna need bigger mouths.
Oh my.
But they're child size, so they do not fit. Unhinged.
I bet they would fit Scully.
They might.
They
Yeah.
would.
It's like a little
and,
hat.
Yeah, knowing her penchant for like eating rocks and fabric, she would probably try and eat it.
So I grew up in a house full of estrogen. And Rachel, you know that. So I actually played with Barbies quite a bit, but that was my original storytelling outlet. So whenever I played with dolls or action figures or whatever, it was just a crapshoot as to what this character that I am is going to be today. And then anybody that's worked with me professionally as well, the salesperson in me comes out sometimes, and I just change my personality. I know that that's like sociopathy, kind of.
Uh-huh.
So I'll own that. But so I think every day is a different day. Barbie would be my Barbie, I guess.
Jim used to literally take apart our computer equipment at home when we were growing up. And as much as he talks about like finding out how things work, and he builds some pretty cool stuff these days, but at home when we were growing up, he would put the stuff back together and literally nothing ever worked the same after. Him and my dad,
This is like my brother.
they installed a stereo system in my 2004 Saturn coupe.
Ooh.
And to turn, I could only turn the radio on if I also turned my brights on the headlights.
And
if
it
the
runs on
brights
diesel.
Turned off, the stereo would turn off.
Hey, there's a really good reason for that workaround. Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
I believe we also fixed your transmission with duct tape and baling wire.
Yes.
in that
This
same
sounds
car.
like my dad and my brother. This is so
Yeah.
painful.
That's funny.
I loved that car though. So Craig, who's your Barbie?
I'm podcaster Barbie. Super boring.
Nice.
Yes, with her
Love
studio and her mic and her over-the-ear headphones. Like, we live. Excellent.
But you knew that when I was a middle-aged white guy that I had a podcast.
Ooh, self-clocking coming in strong. The self-shade here, we love. Oh, okay, friends, we're getting into our final minutes here. So I just want to jump in and say thank you all so much for watching and communicating in the chat on all of our platforms. We're just so madly in love with all of you. Before we go, I just want Craig one more time, if you wouldn't mind plugging what's coming up, where people can find you on the internets, all of those things.
Sure. It's right behind me there. Third Floor Wars. So thirdfloorwars.com, YouTube channel, Twitch channel, and then Tabletop Talk, the podcast. If you want folklore horror, we are doing a episode of Free Leagues Vason on Sunday. And if you need to catch up, I think that's episode 5. So episodes 1 through 4 are waiting for you on YouTube.
To it.
Excellent. That brilliant. Additionally, we Jim and Ray are going to be on Craig's podcast. They're going to record that, and then that episode will drop. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. Ears peeled? Gross. This Friday, sorry, it's been a day. This Friday, we are going to be dropping our episode of Sarah's Table, in which we played Hedge, created by Navi and Sean Drake. And we got to play with some of the Queen's Court people and Bendy and some of the lovely folks through Sarah's Table, which is on there. It's already up on Gen Con TV's YouTube page. We're going to be dropping it on ours on Friday as a pre-celebration. Jim, tell me the rest.
Can I?
Oh, we lost you, Jim.
Oh, I lost you.
Yeah, you just robot. You're back.
You just fragged.
Try again.
Oh no. And then,
okay. I'll shameless plug real quick before we leave. So our birthday's coming up. I said this at the beginning. We have tons of things going on right now. We just released update 3 with some really cool stuff. If you're a 5th edition player, D&D Beyond integration, it does a lot of the work for you, so you can pull things in. But we have options for people that don't want to go into the sub but still need a couple more things. Lots of enhancements. We have layered floor systems that we've added, like some pretty cool stuff. So hop in and take a look at that. And then do note, because our birthday is coming up, we're doing summer with Sono. So on Friday, just like Kato said, that episode is dropping on Gen Con TV. On the 1st of August, I'm going to see if I can do all this from memory. On the 1st of August, we have a lifetime subscription sale. So we did some lifetime subscriptions that are super top tier, limited quantity Kickstarter, but we're going to open that back up again. So again, limited quantity on that. So August 1st through the 19th, or whenever we run out of those subs. So pop in. And then on the 3rd and the 5th, 3rd through the 5th, that's next week, we're going to be in Indianapolis. If you happen across us in Indianapolis at Gen Con, read our t-shirt, perform the function that is listed on the t-shirt, and we will probably give you some free crap.
Cool.
So, okay, we'll definitely give you some free crap. And then after that, on the 19th, which is our birthday, as a gift to everyone, if you have an active subscription on the 19th, we're going to tack on an additional free month. So happy birthday, everybody. And it's going to be a great time. I think at this point, let's just like wave emphatically. And I'll play the trailer and just like hit the end broadcast button. What do you guys think?
Great. Appreciate everybody
share,
coming.
subscribe,
Guys, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you.
Click the bell icon.
Love everybody.
Wave now. Oh no, where's the button? I'll find it. Just give me a second.
Find
Oh,
the
there it
button.
is.
Playing tabletop RPGs online shouldn't be so complicated. With Tabula Sono, your game master can quickly and easily build out their world, and you gorgeous epic badass adventurer, can join right in your browser with just a link. No downloads or installs. So import your own 3D character or one from our huge free library, and then just play. Tabula Sono. Play for free right now.